Witkoff has a plan to bring peace to Russia and Ukraine. For any rational human being, that is all you need to know that this is a terrible plan. You don't need to look at the details. You just need to look at the uh, Qatari-ish person who came up with it. Yeah, Steve Witkoff, the person who brought Biden policy to the Trump administration when it came to Israel, is bringing Trump policy, unfortunately, to the war that Russia started against Ukraine. This latest peace proposal is that the U.S. is reportedly trying to push on Ukraine is really pretty shocking. Some of the highlights are, of course, the Ukraine would have to give up some territory. It would have to give up weapons. It would have to cut its military in half. It would have to accept Russian as an official language in Ukraine. Why? You can guess why. And of course, the thing that Ukraine gets is security guarantees, which they already had, and that didn't help the first time around. They had them because they gave up their nuclear weapons that were stored there, and yeah, they believed the security guarantees, and they were screwed. What are they going to do now is anybody's guess. This is a an impossible situation for Ukraine, as are many situations in the world we live in under Trump. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg, joined by Daniel Kraus. Daniel, you're about to be much closer to Russia than you currently are without even moving.
Yeah, I welcome my Russian overlords that will soon come into Slovakia after Ukraine will be able to be puppeted, and our current government in Slovakia will gladly be also a puppet of Putin regime. Now you might say, what about NATO? Well, we'll see about that. So Ukraine, Zelensky or the Zelensky's administration hasn't yet sort of officially had a stance, at least a few hours ago when I checked on this deal. But it's pretty much a choice between death or dishonor, followed by death. Because this is what will happen if this peace, so-called peace, goes through. I mean, we could, I don't know if you want to just go point by point or, skip few points and just do the peace plan. But this is, even just the wording of the peace plan is like straight up like Russian propaganda, the way it's written. Just to do a quick summary, basically Russia will get everything it wanted from the start. It will be it will get the official recognition over pretty much all of its wartime gains, and then some a little bit because they get all of Luhansk, even the parts they do not control. So they get all of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. So they'll get all of it and official recognition that they do have it. They'll get. Sorry, they wouldn't get all of Zaporizhia and Kherson, only the part that they currently occupy. They'll get recognition of Crimea as well as all the other lands. All the sanctions will be lifted. Plus, there's going to be more investments coming into Russia. Of course, something that I haven't seen many people mentioning is, but like Georgia is fucked. Georgia will absolutely get invaded if this goes through. Georgia has no guarantees after it. The one thing that is happening also that apparently no new country can join NATO, meaning again another reason why Georgia will be fucked after this. And of course, Russia is free to invade Ukraine in the future. I mean, it already had security guarantees. What is this new thing gonna achieve? And of course, Ukraine can't join NATO either. And there's a few more other countries that are kind of getting screwed over. But yeah, this is the peace deal. Putin gets everything he wants. He gets propaganda written into the peace agreement, and I think if this goes through, that basically Putin will be able to become a dictator, a state dictator for the rest of his life. His regime will not fall if this peace deal stays in or
Yeah.
goes like it is now.
And yeah, let's go through some of the other points soon, but I do want to stick to the that one amazing point of Ukraine having to give up weapons to cut its military in half in exchange for guarantees, as you know, as they had before, and have already been proven to be worthless, even with leaders that are not like Trump. Remember, Trump. Let's talk about. First of all, let's talk about U.S. guarantees in the past on the conflict that we talk about most on this channel. You know, Israel in 1991 was forced by the George H.W. Bush administration to come to the Madrid summit to talk to Palestinian terrorists. And the guarantee that Israel got was some statement by the United States that the U.S. opposes the creation of a Palestinian state. This was 1991. You know what happened in 1992? George H.W. Bush lost, and somebody else came into power and pushed a Palestinian state and the peace deal in 1993, the Oslo Accords, that have resulted in the deaths of many, many thousands of Israelis, and the situation that we have today. If we just talk about Trump guarantees, or not guarantees, but words that come out of Trump's mouth, or of his Twitter or True Social accounts, Trump has said that he, supports Israel, that he wants the war to end immediately, that on day one it'll end, that there will be hell to pay if all the hostages aren't released by Saturday at noon, that Gaza, the people of Gaza will be deported to Indonesia and or Libya, and it will become the Riviera of the Middle East. So this is Trump alone. Like it's not even that Putin, Putin's concession here is taking a pause for the cause. He's going to have to stop a little bit, but that's not a
That
concession. That's not a concession because he is not winning this war. People thought he's going to win in a few days back in 2022. It is late 2025 now, and he is not winning. But he will absolutely win if he takes a little pause. In the meantime, Ukraine disarms, and then he comes for round two. When if Trump is still in office, and Trump can change his mind because that's what he does. So yeah, this is absolutely a deal where the US is forcing Ukraine to surrender to Russia. The US is saying, look, Ukraine, Russia wanted to take you over militarily. They failed, so they will take you over with diplomacy and US pressure.
uh, do you want to go point by point? Because I have a lot to say about like individual points.
Sure.
Okay, we can. Well, I skipped a few, so I don't know. But the number one point is Ukraine's sovereignty will be confirmed. Okay, like I love these like pointless statements. Like, yeah, sovereignty will be confirmed after losing what, like 30% of the land, and the land they lost before, Crimea, is going to be recognized as okay, you've now officially lost it. Then in point three, it says, and this is like also weird wording, it is expected that Russia will not invade neighboring countries and NATO will not expand further. So why are we putting NATO expansion limitation in a peace agreement with Russia? Like this is a complete submission to what they want. I mean, right now we have inspiring nations to join NATO: Bosnia, Ukraine, and Georgia, and they're like screwed. They no longer have sovereignty over joining like a defense alliance because, and again, what is the reason? Because Russia invaded somebody that wanted to join NATO. Again, what was the reason for Russian invasion? It was specifically because they didn't want the Ukraine to join NATO or be in a position where it could, and the EU. So, like, this is like an absolute win for Russia. And then, yeah, in point number five, it says Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. I mean, this is like pointless. Like, what are we talking about here? This is joke.
Yeah, I mean, a reliable security guarantee is, first of all, you get to keep your military and strengthen it, and you actually have, troops there ready to fight back if and when necessary. But no, this is not a peace deal, as we've said. It's a surrender deal. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, New York City and all New York State is on my boycott list from January over New York City's choice of mayor. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of the state. I am sort of with you. I mean, I've said on the show Manhattan is my favorite place on the planet, but I am taking a pause certainly in terms of I'm certainly not going to go there for non-work related stuff. And if I go there for work is to be determined once I see how much of his stuff he actually manages to get through. Thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says Ukraine will triumph. I hope you're right. I think you're wrong. I don't know what the path to Ukraine triumphing is, but if it's there, I very much hope to see it. And thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says Clinton is not for Palestine anymore. Well, the thing is, for me, somebody who was president for 8 years and did horrible things and moved the situation in such a bad direction, now saying things like we offered Arafat everything he wanted. Why did you offer Arafat everything? I mean, by offering Arafat everything he claimed he wanted, which of course we know he only claimed that in English, whereas in Arabic he was saying Kul Palestine, all of Palestine. That was his statement, which was repeated in Arabic every time he spoke. Um, you were telling him, and you were telling other terrorists, friends of his, enemies of his, terrorism works. You want something, terrorize people, do terrorist attacks and you will get some of it and you will get it, in increments. So yeah, even though I liked some of the words that Clinton was saying, in the past couple of years, um, it means nothing if your actions say the opposite. Thank you, Bonnie, for super chat. PC also says, Razi, imagine if Kamala was in office. I mean, for Ukraine, I think it would be probably slightly less bad. Israel would be done. Israel might be done anyway, but it would be guaranteed to be done if, if Kamala was in office. I don't think, Biden was better than Trump on Ukraine. Not where I would have liked the U.S. policy to be, but not as bad. PC, thank you for another super chat. He says, I passed through New York City in October only for an hour. Yeah, I passed through there in October as well for a couple of days. It's, New York needed a change. It's just a change that the change that they got is in the wrong direction. And unfortunately, yeah, it's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. We're going to see some pretty bad things in New York in the next few years.
So continuing with the 28 points plan. In number 6, it's the size of the Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to 600,000 personnel, which again, I have no idea why is there a limit of how many soldiers, how many personnel can Ukraine have. I'm not sure if this includes the reserves or if it means just the active duty, because I don't think you ever have 600,000 active duty. But let's say this includes reserves. Why is that like a limit on how many troops Ukraine can have? Ukraine didn't invade anybody. Ukraine is not the aggressor here. Ukraine doesn't like there's no need to limit Ukraine. The only time you want to limit how many troops somebody has is if they were aggressive in the past. So why is there not a limit on Russia to have, Nazi Germany? Well, the pre-Nazi Germany had like a limit on how many troops they could have, which was because they were invading other people, not because they were trying to defend themselves. In point 7, it says Ukraine needs to enshrine in its constitution that it will not join NATO, and the NATO needs a provision that Ukraine will not be admitted in the future. I mean, what is this? Like, sovereignty is just like this is not Ukrainian sovereignty. In the number 1 point, it said Ukrainian sovereignty shall be respected. it's not, you're not sovereign if you cannot join a defensive alliance, if you do not have control over your foreign policy. That is being a puppet regime. That is being controlled, or your foreign policy or domestic policy being controlled by some foreign power, be it Russia, since they are the ones demanding it, or even the West saying, no, we will not admit you. It's one thing to say we will not admit you, but to say, no, we are prohibited from admitting you. Like we are complete, like Russia, like there's a few enemies of the West in the world right now when it comes to countries, and it's pretty much Russia and China. Those are the only big ones that we really have to care for. If both of those fell, or if neither of those were an enemy, I think the rest of our enemies, even like Iran, wouldn't be much of a problem anymore. So we have a chance to take out one of our enemies or cripple them forever, and we're saying no, let's get a handicap because the West is like doing too well. We are like not enough of our people are dying. So let's see if we can like give Russia back a little bit so we have somebody to fight. Like this is insane.
Yeah. You mentioned the limits on military expansion for Germany after World War One, and of course that was violated by Hitler. And people like Churchill. Churchill was laughed out of the room repeatedly in the House of Commons because he alerted to this issue, and people were like were very dismissive. They were dismissive even when Hitler actually started the war, but because Czechoslovakia didn't matter, but and was actually given up by Britain in a sense. So yeah, we are seeing so much of this repeated, and Putin knows. I mean, he is a student of history and you know he's basically going out of his way to repeat it. This whole uh, thing with NATO that nobody else can join. I mean, that is unbelievable. That is Putin's reward for starting the war against Ukraine is you get to dismantle the force defending the free countries of the world against Russian aggression in the first place. I mean, so if other NATO countries have balls, and this is a very big if, I doubt that they do, then they will stand up. And if Trump is going to insist on this, and I have to say I doubt and I hope that he doesn't, because he's a negotiator. So if if he sees, like, if it looks like he's pushing too hard in one direction, it's not going to work. Maybe NATO having balls will other countries in NATO having balls will influence him. But if he does insist and they do, this is the end of NATO. And if they don't and they agree to this, then either way Putin wins. Like there's very little chance of Putin not winning. The only thing, and I think there's very little hope for this as well, is if some people around Trump, and we've been saying this from the start, stop being ass kissers. Say, Mr. President, you are wrong on this. Decide that this is their red line finally, but they haven't decided up until now. They haven't decided that with all his previous support for Putin. They haven't decided that when he's fawning over dictator after dictator and humiliating friend after friend in White House photo ops. So I do hope that moment will come, because Trump is, there's no doubt he's going to keep making things worse and worse to see what he can get away with. Um, but yeah, I hope, some of the Republicans kind of start to push back. Maybe some NATO countries start to push back. In any case, in any other case, we are in a very, very bad situation. Worse than it seems.
Then at number 10, it has the what the US guarantees. The US will receive compensation for the guarantee, which amazing. Like US should be actually rewarded for this so-called peace agreement. Then it continues. If Ukraine invades Russia, it will lose the guarantee. And this is what I'm talking about. There's so many outs that like anybody who doesn't want to defend Ukraine, there is so many outs for them to take. Because let's go back to 2014, after the ousting of Yanukovych, and when the Russia-backed militias in Donetsk and Luhansk took over, and Ukraine had to fight the forces in Donetsk and Luhansk. Russia is calling that war that was started by Ukraine. That Ukraine started a war against its own people, against its own region. Is that because this is the official Russian narrative, right? That it's a war started by Ukraine. So if something like if in the future some Russian separatist supported by the Russian government start a revolution inside of Ukraine, is that Ukraine starting a war? And will there be no guarantee even when Russia invades, like in 2014 Crimea, or invades the rest of Ukraine after something similar happens? Does that mean no longer support from the Western forces? Because this is what happened in 2014, right? Crimea was taken over, the world didn't care, and the world put some sanctions on Russia for a little bit and then stood away from them. Uh, so again, there's just so many things where it's like you can just say, whatever. Ukrainians are the ones who started this war. We will not defend them. Like, if this peace deal happens, it sets up so many places where Russia can just reinvade the rest of Ukraine in so many different ways. Because it never happens clearly, right? Like, Russia still doesn't say it's a war in Ukraine. It's a special military operation to defend Russians in Ukraine because Ukraine has started the war, according to Russia.
Um, Bonnie says, this is insanity. Is this the only place recognizing this? Nothing from Congress? Congress. I mean, Congress is busy, is busy, uh, you know, hating each other, hating, fighting about which type of dictatorship America should become. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, again, th this is one of those very rare issues that the Democrats are better than the Republicans on. I don't know if it's very rare, at least in foreign policy, it's rare that the Democrats are. Let's say less bad. I shouldn't say better because neither side is really good on anything at this moment. They're just different ideas and different versions of how to make things worse. But again, it's not like they're it's ideologically committed. It's not like they understand why they should support Ukraine. And yeah, I wouldn't count on yeah, I wouldn't count on anything coming from Congress. And I don't know. Look, it is being reported in some places as a problematic deal for Ukraine. But those those are also not places where there was a recognition that there's good versus evil in the world. That recognition would require such places to say, look, this is we're talking about two wars that are essentially the same war. And if we're talking about the possibility of World War III, we really need to realize that standing up to the aggressors who are the same side. The aggressors are the same side. Russia, China, Iran, the Palestinians, everybody who supports them. That is one side of humanity that wants to make life much, much worse for the rest of us. Yeah, until such a recognition comes, that I think in that sense, Bonnie, this is the only place that recognizes that, and that is unfortunate. We very much appreciate the 38 people watching live right now, but yeah, we definitely have an uphill battle. Um, Kabutar, thank you for the super chat. Says, why is Israel not supporting Ukraine very much? And they voted with Russia in the UN. When they voted in Russia with Russia in the UN, it was because the US voted with Russia, and Israel is not going to go against the US. But yeah, I completely agree. It's so embarrassing, should be embarrassing for Israelis that Israel didn't immediately uh, jump to Ukraine's aid and support them, and knowing that so much of the weapons that Jews are killed with come from Russia or with Russian support. So yeah, look, I've said this before. Pretty much anywhere in the world where bad things happen, if you trace it back, whether it's you don't have to trace it back, or whether you have to trace it back a few steps, Russia is somehow involved or behind it. And yeah, doing the opposite of this peace deal, supporting Ukraine militarily, saying to Russia, you are not getting 1 millimeter of land, and it is you who's going to have to disarm because it is you who's starting wars. That is the way to prevent future wars. But I don't know if that's even what Trump wants. Maybe he wants the wars after he's out of office, so he can say, if I was in office, this wouldn't happen.
And somebody adds in the chat, why is Ukraine always voting against Israel in UN? In better world, Ukraine and Israel, well, no, in this world, Ukraine and Israel have the same enemies. Unfortunately, because of the both compromising nature when it comes to fighting evil, they do not have the same allies. When it comes to Ukraine, as we said, Democrats and EU generally were closer when it comes to being allies. For Israel, Trump, and sort of the opposite of the countries in EU that support Ukraine are its allies, countries like Hungary. So unfortunately, they are sort of finding themselves on a separate stage, and we've lost Razi for a bit. So unfortunately, they are finding themselves on different stage. I wish it wasn't like that, but as we are right now, it's very unfortunate. But hopefully it will get better. And we have Razi back. So we don't have much time, so I would only just run through a couple more points. So we mentioned the sanctions are being lifted. Point 20 says both countries undertake to implement educational programs in schools and society aimed at promoting understanding and tolerance of different cultures and eliminating racism and prejudice. Like, what the hell is this? Russia is one of the most supremacist states in the world, has always been for all of its history. The Russification of Ukraine itself has been like a major part of its domestic policy for a long time. Like, this is a joke. And of course, one of the points is all Nazi ideology and activities must be rejected and prohibited. This is a joke. This is like giving into Russian propaganda that Ukrainians are Nazis. There is not a, like, trying to say that Ukraine has like a Nazi problem beyond sort of like what every single EU nation has, like to some extent, like a neo-Nazi problem. Saying it's like beyond that is simply like that's evil, like putting it into it. And of course, it talks about all the secession on territories. And of course, point 25, Ukraine will hold elections in 100 days. When is Russia going to hold a free election? No demands there. I mean, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Nazi ideology being banned. I mean, of course, it's a joke because, yeah, as you mentioned, Russia is a very racist culture, but it's the reason we've said this often here. The reason to support Ukraine is not Ukraine, and the reason to support Israel is not primarily Israel. It is the fact that a evil enemy started a war against them because they are freer and because they are, their values are opposite the values of the aggressor. And yeah, that's what makes it easy to judge because of how evil Russia is as a country, and you should have opposed it before it invaded Ukraine, by the way, if you didn't. Um, that is why you should support any country, certainly any free or semi-free country that it attacks. So yeah, but Russia doesn't want to have the actual conversation because they are the bad guys, and if we talk about what they do and why, then we will end up coming to different conclusions, unless of course we are Donald Trump, who wants to be a dictator and yeah, obviously admires the Putins of the world and the MBSs of the world more than the Zelenskys and the Netanyahus.
Yeah, I mostly said my last points. When it comes to Ukraine, it was always clear. Again, the reason why Ukraine was invaded, it was because it was trying to be more free. Before 2004, and Ukraine has its problems. Before 2014, it's hard to necessarily say that, you should be much pro-Ukraine. It was after 2014 where, especially after the invasion by Russia, where Ukrainians have sort of nationally decided we no longer want to be part of the Russian sphere, we want to join the West. That's when I think the support for Ukraine should have started to be much more easier and much more clear, and it hasn't gone away since. Again, as any nation, it has problems, but we are always dealing with comparisons. Like supporting Ukrainians fighting against Russia is not like supporting Saudi Arabia to fight to have influence against Iran. Ukraine is trying to be better.
All right, I'm gonna try to sort things out here. The reality show starts in a couple of minutes. We're gonna be talking about South Africa. Yeah, that is still a story. South Africa and its weird love-hate relationship with the Palestinians. That is coming up in a couple of minutes on the reality show. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.